Welcome to the March Madness special. Let the bracket busting begin. John Howard, along with Karthik Venkatraman, Jake Garriani. Jake, why don't you bust us right into the Men's East Regional and show us what's going to be happening this week?
A lot of fun, right? March Madness is officially here. This is the time of year where all the good stuff happens in the sports world. We all get excited about our picks. We all know who's going to win the entire tournament, as I'm sure we'll discuss here in a few moments. And we all get to brag about it when we're definitely not wrong in any way about how this bracket's about to go out. Yeah, let's start with the Men's East region here in the NCAA bracket. There you got to look at it. The #1 seed overall, Duke, and a couple of these other matchups that I'm really looking forward to. UConn, of course, winning back-to-back titles a couple of years ago. You got St. John's coming here to San Diego. We'll dive into those San Diego matchups a little bit later in this show. But there is a look at the East. Any games jump out to you two guys in the East?
I like the UCLA-UCF game. I think that's going to be a great matchup, a 7-10 matchup, which oftentimes can be upset city. It'll be interesting to see how the Bruins do there.
Yeah, I definitely think this will be a very interesting bracket as well. Going forward, 7-10 is always interesting, but I think for the most part, take chalk on this one, right? Everyone talks about how this one's the most competitive region, so I'm interested to see how it goes.
Yeah, let's move to the West. And here you go, the second overall seed, another 1 seed, the Arizona Wildcats. Then you get some other great teams over here in the West. You got Gonzaga, BYU with A.J. Debinsa, Wisconsin versus High Point. Guys, keep an eye out for High Point. I like that 12 seed. That's a team that can shoot the basketball like crazy. And how about Queens, Karthik, making it to their first ever NCAA tournament? Hawaii's in there. Anyone in the West you guys like?
I think Queens' story is just cool just because they have the UC San Diego story of last year, first year of Division I eligibility. They make the big dance. That High Point, Wisconsin game is going to be very high scoring. I think I've got the Badgers in that one, but I definitely think we're going to see a very tense, tight game there.
I also like the 9-8 matchup in the upper left there, Utah State, Villanova. We'll talk more about that matchup later. But all of the Mountain West Conference hopes fall on the Utah State Aggies. Let's go ahead and move on to the Midwest region and up the top.
South first, baby. We're going south first.
The South region. Thank you very much. A Florida Prairie View A&M Lehigh winner. What I like is down there on the lower left, Nebraska and Troy. Troy could make the argument that they're the ones that kept San Diego State out of the NCAA tournament because the Aztecs lost at home to Troy in double overtime. Also North Carolina in the upper right there, the 5-11 matchup. Houston and Idaho. Houston, the #2 seed. Very intriguing. And any games stand out to the two of you on this board?
You say it could be an argument that the Troy Trojans kept the Aztecs out. I don't think there's any argument. The Troy Trojans are the reason San Diego State is not in this bracket, which we'll get to more on in a moment.
I think Nebraska-Troy will be a high-scoring game. I got VCU beating North Carolina in the first round with no Caleb Wilson.
Very interesting. Okay, let's move on now to the men's Midwest region. As we look here, Tennessee up top and Iowa State, the high-scoring Cyclones. Be interesting to see what they do. #1 seed Michigan on the upper right. I like Howard, but I don't like them to beat Michigan. Any games sticking out here, Karthik, for you?
I'm definitely interested to see Miami, Ohio. What's this team going to do? A lot of talk about them. How legit are they? Can they win their playing game? And then can they beat a team like Tennessee? They definitely can spread the floor and shoot. They didn't play a lot of quality opponents. Let's see what Miami, Ohio is about.
I like this 8-9 matchup. Georgia, St. Louis, the Billikens, baby. I'm just looking forward to seeing that. I think St. Louis could beat Georgia in that one. And I love Iowa State, as we will get more into that in just a moment. But you guys, we noticed a big thing missing from this bracket, something that's been in this bracket the last 5 years, and that would be the San Diego State Aztecs. What a disappointment that they did not get in. We learned on Selection Sunday they were the 3rd team out of that bracket we just looked at. When you couple the roster that Brian Dutcher had to work with and the guys coming back, to me, it has to be one of the most disappointing seasons in recent memory for the Aztecs.
I think it is. When you look at the roster on paper before the season started, when some of the recruits came in, we were thinking, oh my gosh, you get Guath back, you get Miles Bird back, and to add on to all of these transfers that were coming in, we were thinking, oh my gosh, this is a team that'll go deep into the NCAA tournament, and they don't even make it. So when you say disappointing, underachieving, however you want to say it, it was a very disappointing season.
And that's why on paper doesn't matter. You had all this talent, you had returning guys, but at the end of the day, Guys like Magoon Gwath got injured, couldn't take that next step. Miles Bird, as he played well at sometimes, he just kind of looked like a lot like last year, could never take that next step. And those were the two guys I think San Diego State was really hoping to do well for them. They didn't get it done in the non-conference. They lost that game to Troy that we talked about earlier. The injuries definitely came along the way. And then in conference play, they had multiple opportunities to shape up at least an at-large resume if they weren't going to get that automatic berth by beating who we would see would be Utah State in that championship game to get there, and they fumbled them. I'll never forget that stretch where they had Grand Canyon, Colorado State. They lost both of those. Then they get that huge win against Utah State, and then if they had just, I think, gotten one of those wins against New Mexico or Boise State to get them another quad one win, give them a winning record in quad one and quad two, that would have solidified them as well. You know, you can make a debate because the Mountain West was so good this year, the parity of it all, that this team should have gotten a couple of bids in. But at the same time, San Diego State men's basketball had opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to build an at-large resume, and you can't leave it up to chance. You can't leave it to the bubble, and they got burned this time.
Go ahead, Jake.
I think one word defines the Aztecs this season, and it's inconsistent. They just never seem to really fully put it all together for a big stretch. There were even games they didn't feel consistent. I thought the best basketball they played was really part of the Mountain West Conference tournament. Utah State's just a better team. This team had the talent. There was no doubt about it. They just never seem to fully put it together all year long.
I totally agree, and they kind of hit their rhythm when they started conference play 7-0. And we're thinking, oh, great, here we go. This was the team that we didn't get to see in the non-conference season. They start off 7-0, and now I'm thinking they're going to go, 17-2 or 18-1 in conference play, but it just didn't happen because, Jake, like you said, of the inconsistencies. And when they knocked off Utah State, like Karthik mentioned just a minute ago, that was the game I thought they were going to pivot on. I thought, okay, and they beat them by double digits. I really thought that was the game that was going to slingshot them into the conference tournament, and it just didn't happen. And while they won their first two games of the conference tournament, they couldn't knock off Utah State in that conference championship game and just faded in the final 8 minutes of the conference title game.
And after they lost that Utah State game, Brian Dutcher kind of made his argument talking about, maybe the Aztecs could still get in or why they should have gotten in. And here is head coach Brian Dutcher on that.
Mountain West was undervalued this year. 7 teams with 20-plus wins. So the parity, I've said it all year, the parity has hurt our league this year. And that's what every league wants is parity. So if you're in a Power 4, the parity's fantastic. Get 18, 19 teams in. But in the Mountain West, parity is not a good thing. And there wasn't enough separation between the top. And we had a good year. We finished alone in second place. We made the conference championship game. I think we went 9-9 or 9-10 in quad 1 and 2 games. We got a good team. And so it's the same thing, though. The thing we all know, not being in the Power 4, is the opportunities are shrinking. They're not growing. So when people say, well, it's a soft bubble and we don't need to expand the field, we don't need to expand the field if we keep taking mediocre Power 4 teams. There are good mid-major teams that would play well in March that would love to go. And so when they say the bubble's soft, it might be soft with mid-major or with Power 4s, but it's not soft with mid-majors. There are a lot of good mid-major teams, and we are one of them.
Look, at their highest of highs, this team looked like a team that can make it to the second weekend of the NCAA tournament. And their lowest of lows, which they oftentimes look like, and we talked about that back stretch when they really could have gotten it done and didn't get it done, they didn't look like an NCAA tournament team. I will say I do agree with Brian Dutcher that a lot of the bigger conferences do get the nod, and it helps their net ranking. I mean, we saw Auburn, a team that was terrible in quad 1 and quad 2 games, but just because they played those games, because they play in such a great conference like the SEC, they were ranked above San Diego State when it came to the final bubble. So what I think is San Diego State moving into the new Pac-12 next year with all the teams that are in there, that's going to increase their quad 1, quad 2 opportunities. But at the end of the day, you're given those opportunities. You got to win. They got to do better than 9-10 in quad 1, quad 2 with a quad 3 loss.
I think a lot of people will sit here and argue why their team should be in. This happens across the country for all sorts of schools, right? At the end of the day, to the points we've all made, Aztecs had their opportunity. They didn't get in because they couldn't make those opportunities happen. And you can't lose to Troy at home. I'm sorry. That's a huge thing.
It'll be interesting to see how Troy does. I'm also interested in seeing how Miami does because they went 31-1 or whatever, but they didn't play anybody.
Of Ohio.
Miami of Ohio, yes. Thank you.
There's a different Miami in the tournament, too.
Exactly. So I think if you were to see San Diego State or New Mexico or Boise State or GCU play Miami, I'm thinking the Mountain West Conference team will beat Miami, but Miami gets to go to the tournament. Let's now listen to Miles Byrd also after the loss to Utah State in the conference championship game.
Coming in preseason #1 unanimously, I think first time in Mountain West history, something like that. And, you know, we had a lot of rough patches throughout the year. So, I mean, I love everybody in that locker room. You know, I'm proud of how we blocked out outside noise throughout the year. Just continue to put our heads down, continue to work. I feel like the past few days have been our best, like, playing basketball together. I mean, it sucks that it was 30 games into the year, but, yeah, no, I mean, if we're given the opportunity again, I think we still got a lot left in us.
Bummer they didn't get that opportunity, but this Aztecs team, I think they'll return some pretty good talent, and they got to figure it out moving forward. Tay Simmons, the player to watch out in the future for the San Diego State men's basketball team. All right, a team to watch in the present right now, if you all will. Everyone's talking about these teams that didn't make the NCAA tournament in our area. How about UC San Diego women's basketball back-to-back seasons making the NCAA tournament, claiming back-to-back Big West tournament championships in their first 2 years of Division I eligibility. The Lady Tritons, if you will be a 14 seed, and they'll take on 3-seed TCU, who's the Big 12 regular season champ, and they made it to their conference tournament championship game. We should also mention the Tritons got a share of the regular season title in this conference. This team is good. Michaela Rose, Erin Condren, Sabrina Ma. This team lost to Maya Sugapong from last year, who was so good for them, and then they were still this good this year. I've been super impressed, and this team's very excited to go back to the big dance.
Absolutely, it can happen to anyone. I think with this team, it's pretty exciting. Like, I really believe that we can keep up with anyone when we play our best basketball.
You know, I think that we earned respect. Last year, we were just happy to be there. I mean, actually, we watched our men win, and then we showed up today, and then we had to leave tomorrow to go to LA, to bust LA. And it was not even like the NCAA tournament. So I think this will be a totally different experience for the young women on our team. I think they'll enjoy it. It'll be an experience that they can remember for a lifetime. And it's great to do it with people that you really care about.
Guys, this team had to play in the 16-seed play-in game last year. They didn't get the job done. This year, they don't have to deal with all that nonsense. Straight into the tournament, TCU will be a tough first-round matchup, but they've got some size. They've got some players. Then maybe hopefully keep it at least close for a little while, please.
Yeah, and you got to commend them for making it 2 years in a row in second year of eligibility. And I like what the coach says. Last year we were just happy to be there. This year we want to go the next step and win a game. And their work is cut out for them with their opponent, but love the fact that they're there.
I think we saw with the Aztecs and Brian Dutcher, like, experience in this tournament is a huge thing. So the more you get to go, and I know that sounds obvious, but the more relaxed you are, the more it's not such a huge stage. And the fact that they're going to back-to-back years will do wonders for this program. Let's take a look at their bracket. At least they're part of the bracket, the Sacramento 4. You see UC San Diego highlighted there, a big test against the Horned Frogs, the #1 seed on that side of the bracket, the South Carolina Gamecocks, who are no strangers to winning titles in women's basketball. You take a look at some of these other matchups on the women's side of the Sacramento 4, and then we can move over to another part of this bracket here. Let's go to the Fort Worth 1, UConn, who has dominated women's basketball for the better part of, 20 years now. Gino Auriemma, everything they've done, they're undefeated this season. To me, folks, it's UConn against everybody else. I think they run through this tournament. One thing that's interesting, I know we didn't show the full scope of it, but UConn would face South Carolina in the Final Four and not a rematch of the national championship that the women had a year ago.
Well, has UConn lost a game in the last couple of decades?
Yeah, in the last couple of decades, yes, not this year, though.
All right, let's move on to more of the women's bracket, the Sacramento 2 bracket, which features UCLA up top taking on Cal Baptist. Let's not forget Cal Baptist men are coming down to San Diego to play, and the Cal Baptist men are in the men's tournament for the first time ever. But UCLA, obviously a heavy favorite there. And down there at the bottom, LSU and Jacksonville. Gonzaga representing the women as well with the, is that a 12-5? I need my reading glasses on. I just don't have them.
It's interesting with UCLA. This is a team that's never won a national championship in women's basketball, but they made the Final Four for the first time a year ago, back to a 1 seed, and a great opportunity to get to that national championship game with both South Carolina and UConn on the other side of that bracket.
Outstanding. Let's go to the Fort Worth 3 bracket in the women's side. Texas up top there, and they're going to play the winner of the play-in game between Missouri State and who's SFA?
That's St. Stephen
F. Austin, baby.
Stephen F. Austin,
The Lumberjacks.
And then down below, Michigan and Holy Cross. Will we see Michigan meet Texas at the end? Who knows? But that's why we love March Madness. The games have to be played, and the results have to come out.
My championship will be South Carolina and UConn, much like the Seahawks Rams in the NFC Championship game was my title game. Those two teams are awesome. They are the blue bloods of this sport right now. And, Gino Auriemma versus Don Staley going up head to head is just so fun to watch. And I know Jake has UConn booked all the way, but South Carolina plays in one of the toughest conferences in all of women's college basketball. And they've proven they can be there. I'm so excited because it's a full steam ahead for both of those two teams to meet in the Final Four. So we'll see what happens. Guys, are we ready to reveal?
One quick thing before we move on.
Ahead,
One quick thing.
Yeah.
Texas is in a very similar boat on the women's bracket where they haven't won a national championship since like the 80s. And another great path to be able to go play for that national championship with those two huge powerhouses on the other side. So if I'm UCLA or Texas, I'm loving the way this played out for us.
They should have flipped the other side of the bracket. UConn one side, South Carolina the other. That's how I feel about it. Anyway, let's move on to our picks, guys, for the men's tournament bracket. Final Fours, sleepers. Oh, why don't we start with me, the sexy guy right there. All right, this is what we're talking about right here, boys. This is my Final Four, and maybe you're surprised by the right side of the bracket, but I do have UConn and Florida on one side, and then on the other side, I have Michigan advancing against Wisconsin in a Big Ten matchup. I got Michigan winning it all, man. These guys can ball. They're so good on both sides of the ball. What Dusty May has done over there over at Michigan after, leading Florida Atlantic for all that time. He's really got those boys playing. I've enjoyed every single minute watching them. And I know John Howard didn't really like my UConn pick in the Final Four, but I'm sticking with the Huskies there.
UConn is a great pick 2 years ago.
Okay, John, let's go to last year. So because I knew you were going to bring this up. Back-to-back national championships. Then last year they had a down year. They were an 8th seed. But who did they almost beat in the second round?
You tell me.
Florida, the team that ended up winning the national championship. They lost that game by 2 points. I don't care. Dan Hurley is a baller. He may be the most insane person in the whole entire world. But I'll tell you what, that guy knows how to win. And it drives him to all kinds of crazy levels to get the job done. He may be insufferable. He may not be fun. But boy, is the man entertaining. And I like the UConn Huskies to make it to the Final Four as well.
Yeah, well, this was the men's bracket you were supposed to pick. And you've got UConn in the championship.
I mean, they did win back-to-back titles a couple of years ago. I don't even have Michigan in my Final Four, which we'll get to in just a minute.
Okay.
They turned the ball. I like Dusty May a lot, but the Wolverines have turned the ball over a lot. They kind of scare me going into this. I think Iowa State gets out of that part of the bracket, as we'll see here in my picks. But those are cute. Those are good. It's a nice effort. Now I will show you.
You're talking to the CBS 8 defending bracket champion.
Now I will show you the correct picks for the Final Four. This is what it should look like. I get it's not edgy. I get it might not be sexy. I know I got
he just picks chalk and thinks
there.
he's all cool.
Hey, give me the mic. Button it up over there. I know I got 3 ones in there, but that's because the ones this year are so dominant. I have the 2 best teams in the entire country playing in the national championship game. That would be the #1 overall seed, Duke, #2 overall seed, Arizona. Arizona is the best team in the country. They will win the national championship. They went 32-2 on the year. The 2 games they lost, they weren't even really healthy for, and that was to Kansas and Texas Tech. The Aztec fans know well that the Wildcats are great. They beat them by more than 20 points, and Arizona is just a wagon. I like Iowa State a lot here. They beat Arizona, who I just said I think is the best team in the nation. They almost beat them, rather. Had a buzzer beater that Arizona won in the Big 12. And then what I really like here on the dark horse is USF. They've won 11 straight. They're red hot going into this tournament. 8th highest scoring team in the nation. Regular season and tournament champs. And I threw Troy in there just for fun because I think Troy could win a game or so in the tournament, and they can score the ball. I think the Aztec fans know very well what Troy can do, but Arizona is going to win the national championship.
Was I supposed to tell the people my sleeper pick?
Well, it was the same as mine since you stole it, so don't worry, I got it covered.
I didn't steal anything. We'll bring back my sleeper pick a little bit. John, you go ahead.
Okay, I was going to say about Troy, after they beat the Aztecs in San Diego in double overtime, they went up to USC and nearly beat USC in triple overtime. So
that team can score.
The team can score. If
So
they can
can
put
Nebraska.
things together, it'll be very interesting. Now, did you want to get back to your dark horse before we get to my pick?
Why don't we just come back to my sleeper real quick? And then I'll let you go full steam ahead, John. Is that
okay.
with you?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Awesome. We're going to be talking about South Florida. I didn't steal Jake's. I've been talking about South Florida for quite. This team can ball, and these are my reasons why. They make three-pointers really well. They offensive rebound really well, and they force turnovers a lot. Those are 3 recipes for a team that can go win it all. But what I love most is their head coach, Brian Hodgson, and his awesome story as to his team going to play in Buffalo in their first-round game against Louisville. Take a listen. We don't have the sound. Never mind. I'll tell you what.
Look at that. You steal all my thunder by taking my dark horse pick, and then you try and throw the sound that doesn't exist. What's going on here?
Let me tell you, it's a great
This
story.
is a bit, right? This is a bit.
His father has dementia.
Oh.
He's never gotten to travel to go see his son play in ever coaching. But because they get to go to Western New York and he gets to coach over there, his dad's going to be able to come to the game. And I just love that. That's a story I can root for from the beginning to the end. South Florida Bulls, come on.
All right,
Okay.
you really saved it there.
Yeah, that was a good save, Karthik. All right, my final 4. Let's unveil the actual key to the brackets. I've got the Duke Blue Devils knocking off Houston on one side, and I've got Michigan knocking off Arizona. And that's if Arizona can get out of the second round. They can never get out of the second round. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt by making the final 4. Michigan is going to knock off Arizona, and then they're going to lose to Duke as Duke goes on to win their championship. As for my dark horse, Santa Clara, baby, the 3rd team out of the West Coast Conference. They have a strong offense, a 7-footer on defense to block shots, and while they're playing a blue-chip program in Kentucky, these ain't your father's Wildcats. Santa Clara, a 10 seed, Kentucky, a 7. I say Santa Clara knocks off the Wildcats in their opener. They'll likely have 2-seed Iowa State, whom Jake puts in the Final 4. They lead the nation in scoring margin around 2, Iowa State does, but
Sorry about it.
Santa Clara, despite a ranking of 309 in defensive rebounding and being ill-disciplined,
Recipes to win. We saw that with San Diego State this season, too.
Are you trying to make them sound good or not good?
Santa Clara is ranked 331 in fouls committed per game. The Broncos will reach the Sweet 16 because the glass slippers fit. And
The glass slippers may fit, but they can't get on the glass to get the boards.
At least they're not playing on a glass floor, like the Big Ten Conference tournament was played.
All right, let's get back local. Let's talk about San Diego. The team's coming here. It's been a long time since March Madness games were played here 4 years ago, right? Back in 2022, the last time that the NCAA tournament came to Viejas Arena, and it was electric. We were out there covering it, some great games, a lot of fun, and it's going to be great again. You think about some of the big-time coaches coming out here to San Diego and some of the teams we already touched on a little bit, but let's take a peek at the bracket part of it that's coming here to San Diego. My national champion right there at the top, Arizona, will be here, so if you want to see the eventual national champion, you might as well go to that game. They're going to take on the Sharks of Long Island. And then Villanova, Utah State. I know we'll get into that game a little more. That should be a really, really good matchup. John, you got the other part of the bracket.
Yeah, also coming into San Diego, which is this week on Friday. We got St. John's and Northern Iowa up top there, and then Kansas taking on Cal Baptist again. Cal Baptist, like Queens, first time they've ever made it to the NCAA tournament. So, and Cal Baptist, who knows what kind of a crowd they have, but they're not having to travel. Their fan base up in they're up in the Inland Empire. Don't have too long to travel, so it'll be interesting to see what kind of a fan turnout we get from Cal Baptist.
They do have to face Rock Chalk Jayhawks,
which
is going to be a heck of a test.
A bit of a test. There's no doubt about that.
Which is the team that I'm going to talk about right now. Kansas Jayhawks have been having a pretty good season and led by a dude, Darren Peterson.
This is your guy. The second overall pick in the NBA draft.
His first overall, probably. Just because of the way he's such an elite scorer. This guy's gotten comparisons to guys like Kobe from the analysts throughout the whole entire season because of how good he can score. But Kansas is also has this blue blood history. They were just in the national championship game not so long ago. But in recent years, first and second round exits for the Jayhawks. Darren Peterson's gotten a lot of criticism this year for sitting out major games for the Jayhawks as well. Can Kansas get it together, block out all the noise, and make some sort of run in March? I don't think they get past their second game, but here we go.
I don't think they get past their second game. I mean, they'll beat Cal Baptist, so I can almost guarantee
I think
that.
they'll beat Cal
That's
Baptist.
good.
That's an
Look, you said Blue Bloods. I want to talk red. I want to talk Red Storm, baby. The Johnny St. John. This team is an absolute wagon. Back-to-back Big East regular season and tournament champions. That hadn't been done in more than 2.5 decades. They beat UConn by 20 in the Big East
that would
title
have been a
game.
good argument 2 years ago.
Yeah, right. They won 19, the Red Storm, out of their final 20 games. They can score on the fast break, as you see right here, all over the place. The Red Storm are red hot, and they are led by 73-year-old legend Rick Pitino, who has turned this program around. He knows what he's getting into. He knows how to play in these tournaments. I like St. John's a lot. Here is Rick Pitino, by the way.
There's a lot that goes into building a winner. Today it's more difficult than ever before because you have 8, 9 new players each year, so you don't have very little continuity. But the players that come into your program understand the head coach, understand the culture, and if they want to enter this program, it's more than money. So you're getting players that buy into that culture. Did I expect to win back-to-back for the first time in history? Probably not. I never thought about it, to be honest with you.
I mean, just a legend, and he's going to do some legendary things. St. John's is a really, really good basketball team. I almost think they kind of got snubbed with a 5, but I still think they're going to make a good run in this tournament.
Also, last year, though, they got beat by Arkansas earlier than people thought they would, and so we got to see if this team can really kind of get over the hump. And, you know, Pitino obviously has such a legendary history in the NCAA tournament, but can he get these Johnnies to get going? I think that's the team that Kansas loses to, so I feel pretty good about them making it to the second weekend at least.
All right, let's jump back into another matchup that's going to be played here in San Diego, Viejas Arena. Villanova and Utah State, and this is video of Villanova here, but I'll talk about the Aggies. It's an 8-9 matchup. Utah State, the 9, the lower seed, but Utah State is favored by odds makers, a 1.5-point favorite. The Aggies, familiar with the Viejas Arena, the lone Mountain West Conference team in the tournament, and for those feeling the Mountain West deserve to have more teams in the tourney, this game is a huge litmus test. There are 5 teams from the Mountain West Conference, and there would have been 6 had San Diego State chosen to play in the NIT. But 5 from 6 kind of the Aztecs are not in the Mountain West. So Mountain West fans, you should be rooting for a Utah State win here to prove the point that more teams from mid-majors should be invited to the NCAAs.
And I'm glad the Aztecs decided not to play in the NIT. I think expectations at that program have been raised to the level where I know Brian Dutcher can't say it, I know the players can't say it, but there's no need to waste your time playing in the NIT at this point. It is NCAA or bust. It is making a deep run in March for the Aztecs at this point. There's no need to waste your time in the NIT.
Utah State also plays great defense, man. I'm excited to watch them play.
It'll be very intriguing to see how they do. Okay, something I used to do decades ago was take the most unique nicknames in the tournament. I've picked 2 for this year's. The St. Louis Billikens nickname originated from a good luck doll that was popular in the early 1900s called the Billiken.
Oh my God!
Sort of like
what is that thing?
It's kind of like a Cabbie Patch or a Beanie Baby or a Tickle Me Elmo. Well, in 1910, local sports writers compared football coach John Bender to the Billiken and the mythical figure representing, quote, the god of things as they ought to be. The team became known as Bender's Billikens, and eventually the name was adopted for all the sports, now famously known for its belly that is rubbed for luck.
Just that's weird.
Terrifying. Yeah, that's weird. The doll's a little ugly. All right, the Akron Zips nickname originated in 1925 when a student named Margaret Hamlin suggested the name Zippers to represent speed in a mascot naming contest. She came up with it from the zipper on the fashionable and popular rubber galosh manufactured by B.F. Goodrich Company, based in Akron. Jake and Karthik, I gotta believe you did not know that piece of trivia. The nickname also highlights Akron's history as the rubber capital of the world, and Zippy the kangaroo mascot was added in 1953.
I did not expect us to end this show talking about Annabelle the Terrifying Doll and a galosh, but here we are. Welcome to March, folks.
Oh, that's pretty good. It's so intriguing to hear some of these stories of how these teams got their names.
Some unique ones. Furman Paladin's another one that I like in the tournament this year.
Furman Paladins. It's officially March, folks, and you can watch those games right here on CBS 8. Hey, speaking of the Billikens, going to be taking on the Bulldogs. And those games that you got, 9:15 a.m. TCU, Ohio State. You got Duke, who's going to go to the national championship game, taking on Siena, and a whole lot more coming on CBS this March. Folks, We love it. March Madness.
Enjoy your evening. We'll see you next time.